Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first annual Death Cage match. What do they call that from? Shit, what's it called? Thunderdome, that's it. I was trying to remember that. How you doing there, Georgie? Good to have you, my man, George. Yeah, great to have you all here. So essentially, what I'm going to be doing here today, then, is I have had offers, obviously, for play by email. So the idea is essentially going to be to refresh myself, and obviously just in general, everybody, really. Yeah, as Peter says there, potentially a match against Dojo, but I don't know when his game will end. The historical gamer had floated the idea of a play by email, so I thought, well, you know what, it's a good idea to actually be ready for one. And yeah, so I thought we could go ahead and do that today. There is a little bit of an issue at the moment on the current patch. I have been told regarding transportation aircraft and the flak values and that sort of thing there, really. So I managed to find a good document on the actual forums, which you can take a quick look at, and essentially that'll be what would more or less follow in the future. But for the most part, I'm going to ignore the air phase, at least initially. I'm going to be more so looking forward to the ground moves, really. I'm talking about what we're going to do, and what we might do, objectives, that sort of thing. I don't have an enemy as of yet there, Snake. But this is just, yeah, it's just so we're ready. Just so we're ready, so in the future when we do have an enemy, then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up the actual screen here. There we are. There we are, very nice. Yes, so we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the options first. Now, I can imagine that a play by email will, of course, be just set to normal, as you would imagine there, all things being equal there, barring the actual players, and really the nations involved. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look. But yes, I'm looking to the future, actually. When we move away from 1.0212, and we do have the actual air phase shenanigans stabilized, that'll be a lot better then for us. But we're going to take a look at it here today. I imagine we'd probably do something of a no early end. But the general campaign's quite interesting. It does make you wonder, though, isn't it? Because it's like, well, the no early end does remove that. But then having that pressure of victory points is actually rather intriguing. So I think I probably would opt for the 1941, just in general. I think having the actual VP does make it a hell of a lot more impactful, I suppose you could say. Exactly, Yakov, shoot bullets. Exactly. Okay. Probably spelled that wrong. Let me just call it prep. Oh, go ahead and check out Strategy Gaming Dojo. He's a really good YouTuber as well. And I've been enjoying watching his campaigns. It's been very interesting, actually. It's 12 outside, is it? I don't know what the temperature is here at the moment, actually. It's been unseasonably warm as of late. Oh, as Peter says there, flak and operational losses average a total of 8% of your bombers per ground strike. Yeah, that's the thing there as well that I'm really speaking towards. So we'll use this for the actual testing of the ground phase more than the actual air phase for the most part. Damn, that is a hefty stream delay. It looks fine on my side. There we are. Okay, looking good. Yeah, that's fine by me, then. I think I may edit the audio bitrate in future, but it's looking fine now. Well, this is it, isn't it, really? It's like the Soviet side, and just the game in general really does benefit from having just the human element to it. That's what I'm looking forward to as well. So, yeah, I mean, if we take a look then at the actual starting position here, disposition, I suppose you could say. I mean, we have a demarcation point, which is quite interesting. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this off then. I've been also considering potentially what we could do in the future as well. Now, namely, something I've always found a little bit kind of odd, and I don't know how I particularly feel about it. The idea I was considering, as maybe one of the house rules perhaps, is maybe trying to create something more of an immersion in the actual, well, period and just game in general. Like, for example, over here, I have the 132nd Heavy Warfare Battalion. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and send them up to OKH, and I could do that immediately. And then that means that they could be effectively sent anywhere. I mean, obviously, yeah. So I'm like, well, Is that really immersive? Is that really how quickly things could be done? I'm not too sure. So I think what I might go ahead and do then, I don't know, you guys would have to tell me what you think about this, but what I'm considering is potentially having something of a restriction. It'd be probably best on both players, where I wouldn't mind impose it upon myself. The idea being that if we're going to have support units moved around, we must move them either to the army command or to the higher command. But, well, to the army and then to the higher command, being the general idea there, really. And I think that would go some way to represent, the moving away from the front line, or just being reassigned, re-equipped. Just obviously the general logistics of it all, really. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. I don't know how you guys feel about that, so it's probably a good idea to let me know. Oh, actually, no, I forgot. I can actually take a look at the temperature outside. So it's 6 degrees there, George. 6 degrees here at the moment. Is it possible to edit the positions of units before you start the game? I do believe that people have made mods regarding that, but I'm not entirely sure myself, really. It's not a large change, but it would be an immersive one, really. Because it does bring in a greater consideration as to where you're going to have these support units. That's what I'm interested in. And delays batch, you get a 1 combat delay very easily. Yeah, see, again, that is another issue there, as pointed out by Peter. So this is just in general to take a look at star dispositions, to take a look at potential things that you can do, or objectives to go for, and how to really sort of go about things. So we'll see how long we get through this. I preferred it to be on a more stable patch, but that'll come in the future then. So what we're going to go ahead and do then is, as mentioned earlier, I do have a document to take a look at, so we're going to have a quick look at this. So I saw this on the forums, and I'll post a link to it later on, actually. I'll be able to find that again. And it's an interesting document. I had a quick read through it. So essentially, it is talking the player through how to actually manually control the opening air phase and the doctrines, etc. So it's quite interesting. Now, this is tested on the current version. 0.4. Which one are we on? 1.2. Okay, so that might be slightly out of date, but probably will still apply to future games. Yeah, so generally what I'm going to do then, well, what I'll do then is I'll post a link to this afterwards, but this would be something that we would follow. It seems like a quite nice and handy guide in all fairness, especially you can see discussion of loadouts, you can see obviously here. And with this document, the actual poster managed to achieve about, I think it was about 4,000 destroyed VVS on the ground, or just in general, actually. So it's quite good. Yeah, there we are. So that's something that we'll take a look at in the future, but I'll go ahead and link that after the actual stream if you guys would take a look at it, would like to take a look at it. I do realise that there are more newer players now coming to War of the East 2 and to the War of the East series in general, the Gary Grisby series in general. So I think it's probably worth the time to make these these documents available more freely. We can find it on the forum, but not everybody looks on the forum. Right, so would be an interesting thing in a multiplayer game if you could alter, let's say, 10 to 15 years starts in position. Yes, I think mods would allow that. Right, let's see. Let me catch up on the chat here. You could also put limits per course, for example, no 12. Well, that's also a thing there as well, isn't it, Peter? This is something I'm really going to have to think about, is like the house rules and that sort of thing, really. As Null says, the Jones were very adept at challenging organizations and forming ad hoc groups. Yeah, that's very true. I'd imagine they probably play the game. Probably the best way for them, really, to get a good idea what's going on. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do then is I'm going to have the AI just do its thing in the first phase here for the actual air phase. It's going to be something that I will take a look at in future versions when we're on a more stable patch. But I think for now, due to the current air mechanics and the current state of the actual air game being a little bit balked, we can more or less just sideline that. The main thing that people are going to have to worry about is their starting positions. And yeah, so we'll go with that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and... well, let's see. I mean, let's take a look at what they generally have. So, ground attack, yes. Reconnaissance over there, ground, yeah. Okay. So that'll speed things up pretty considerably. I like to put 3 flak, 3 artillery, 2 construction, and 1 engineer per infantry corps. A bit more flak and artillery for motorized. Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, that's something to be discussed, really. It'd be quite interesting to see if we could find anything regarding that. Through research or something of that nature that somebody may have happened upon. I can imagine that things may have changed, but it would be interesting to see that, to try and base it upon something a little bit more concrete. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and have these air directives just executed. I'm going to go ahead and actually place that down to message level 1 here to begin with. and then we'll see how that goes. And then we'll go into the ground phase, and we'll go from there. I think we'll do possibly about an hourish or so. Shouldn't take all that long, really. I do like the actual map mod. It's the first time in a very long time I've actually seen it without snow on the map. So it feels strange to be able to see different terrain. Or just everything not in general being white. Oh dear. I don't know what whack means there, George. I'm going to assume it's like within the mechanics of the game also. Yeah, so you can see that air losses here from the AI is quite high. Fairly high. We'd be aiming to keep it under 120, so you can see that that would be quite high. And they haven't really achieved all that much there. Yeah, good thing I don't have this to hang over my head. But yeah, I mean, in fairness as well, the actual patch is kind of weird, so I'm not too sure how much of a change that'll make. But yeah, it's good to see it in action though, really. Not that it's awful, I mean, you're generally going to get a win at all costs, okay. You're going to generally get a relatively good outcome, but obviously an Axis player needs to conserve just as much as possible. Air power is quite important. It's very, very useful. It's one of those very interesting things, really, because if the Axis maintains, or at least can actually achieve aerial dominance, then it is actually really quite bloody impactful. You can do quite a lot with that. Just in general, being able to escort transports, being able to head out to the front lines or positions close to the front lines is very useful. Even potentially drop in paratroopers. My gosh, Fallschirmjäger falling from the sky. How does that song go? Now it's going to start raining, man. Or is it about 10:30? Or I think it's about 10:30. I can't remember how it goes. Yeah, altitude is important. Though the interesting thing is, from what I understand of the air, is essentially you set the altitudes, but the actual aircraft themselves will just choose their own altitude when they actually attack. Oh, Snake, I've been using the same soundtrack for a very long time. It is effectively a mix of Heartline 2, 3, 4, I think 4. I might have actually lost some of the 4 tracks, so I have to put them back in there. And just anything that is essentially copyright-free will find its way in there, should it be fitted. Yeah, I do like Soon's view of simulation over gaming. I mean, this is it, isn't it, really? Hey, doing that salty? I pulled back to that. We're not at the Stalingrad game, but that's a good point. I'm probably going to have to pull back out of the Don Basin. Well, out of the Caucasus, but that's a good point there. So we'll take a look over here then. So with the AI settings there, so that's 305, 147. I mean, I could go ahead and actually take a look into the losses more closely, and that's really where we need to be taking a look at. So if we take a look at the air losses, generally, where's our pilot KIAs? Yeah, you can see there 481. So that's for the Soviets. 220 there. How you doing there, Cranium? Not yet, not yet. Yeah, essentially would be aiming for about half and less of that. You can see that level bombers do tend to take quite a bit of damage there. Fighters via bomber, tactical bomber. And generally, it's the actual level bomber and the reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is a rather interesting thing, really. In the first week, well, sorry, in the first turn, we do have a special rule which does aid the Axis. But reconnaissance is one of those where I have to really look into it. Like, how much of a benefit is there to do it over multiple days? And really, what are the ultimate aircraft? You probably want to go from the camera settings. Obviously, we have low-level cameras, mid-level cameras, and high-level cameras, and really started to look into how that works there, really. 90 experienced tigers. But yeah, there we go. So that is the opening. And yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see, really, how it works in regards to the remaining aircraft. We do have Hungarians, but it doesn't look like the Hungarians heavily participated here. Or at least they didn't see many losses there. They can see such aircraft such as the Heinkel 111H3 did take the majority of the losses there, as did the Junkers 88A. So yeah, that's the thing. HS-126B, that would be our tactical bomber, attack bomber. I think you'd call it that one. But there we are. Okay. Well, it's a good question there, Salty. I mean, I'd like to have like a play-by email at some point in the future, really. But the thing is, the more prepared I am, the easier that becomes, because it has been a long time since I actually took a look at doing a play by email, or even just doing. Well, I've never taken a look at a play by email in a War of the East title before. East, not Yeast. But yeah, I need to refamiliarize myself. We're on a different patch. I mean, my gosh, the campaign that we did, I think, was one of the earlier versions of the game, and things have changed since then. Oh, thank you very much for that, Numenorian, not my real surname. That's a great name. I don't know how much. I'm going to assume that's Czech. Thank you very much. I don't know how much that is, but I'm going to say thank you all the same, even if it's a pound, a penny, or a billion. I mean, if anyone's got a billion, you know. How you doing there, Yaga? Well, I've got some opponents in mind, and this is generally going to be how we perform things. So, what's been quite interesting as well, from some of the play-by-email... Sorry, play-by emails and some of the ARs I've seen. In the opening phase where I did my own campaign was... let me go ahead and get the actual drawing tool. Oh, whoops, not that one. I always forget the name of it. How is the new screen, by the way? You guys should be able to watch in 1440p. It should be a more pleasant experience I'm hoping for. It's definitely more pleasant to record upon or stream with. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Dojo to finish that game. But there's no reason why we can't have multiple games once we get into the actual flow of it all, really. Okay. Yeah, so generally what I would have done in earlier... I mean, this is the thing. I've got a newfound appreciation for rivers. I've got quite a bigger appreciation for zone of control and for terrain. So normally what I would have advised, and this is the difficult part here really, isn't it, is we really want to try and get around these guys and then rout them. That's going to be the idea of there in the first turn, at least from what I've seen to be quite good. Whereas before I would have gone ahead and gone for something like that, just to sort of surround them and then deal with them in the turn afterwards. But it seems that is actually not as effective as it would have once appeared to me. Oh, thanks there, Frago. That's good to know there, my friend. Yeah, it should help, but I just make it a little bit clearer. How you doing there, Simon? Yes, we're on a new monitor now. So it does feel a little bit more zoomed out. In fairness, I can actually zoom in. No, we're actually in the most zoomed. Optimism. I play the Japanese in Warhammer Pacific, and effectively my game is a masochistic game. When we barely hit anything, we usually don't have things go our way, ever. So I'm quite used to having to be fatalistic, and yet optimistic. So yes. So I think really take a look at the actual starting positions here. Oh, we do have an elite division. What was the name of it now? I think it was the... Not that. That would be useful to take a look at. Is it the 174th Division? I can't recall now. But we do have a non-SS division, which is effectively... Let me go ahead and just turn these off. Which is effectively an elite division. They do have some pretty high morale. Is it 7th? I'm sure we have one that's pretty high morale to begin with. I can't recall which division it actually is now. Is it the 7th? I don't think it's the 7th. Now, you guys are a little bit more familiar with the game as well. You might know which division I'm thinking of. I think it's in this general area. It might have been broken up into regiments, perhaps. Is it 162nd? There's definitely one around here. It has a higher morale limit, I do believe. I'm sure there's one. I just can't remember where it is now. But that division's actually really quite intriguing, and it definitely does have a great role to play. Yeah, I can't see it here. But it's definitely one of them. So we have... Let me turn these off. Oh, arrived. Oops. I'll fix it there, Newman. Yes, well, I mean, this is it. I always say to people that the thing that got me into doing like streams and stuff of that nature, and really more so into strategy games. I mean, when I was growing up, I played Age of Empires 2, played some Rise of Nations. That was fun. I always wanted that. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was like a more sci-fi Rise of Nations. I never got around to playing it. I always wanted to play it, but never got around to it. I remember going over to a friend's house when I was younger, and I don't know how he made his money, but he tended to like make some good money. So he was always like boasting to me about having an Alienware, and it's like, oh my god, I can remember what it looks like now. God knows what the specs would have been about, not 20 years ago, but near enough 20 years ago. Yeah, so what we used to do is we'd used to play like Dawn of War, and then we started playing Dawn of War 2, so that was really good fun. But when I was playing at home, my internet was so shockingly bad, but I could never play a game because it'd lag out like crazy. Ah, the joys. Again, I'm quite. I really want to find that division, but I can't recall which one it is. It may have a slightly higher TOE. Oh, is it the 78th? But this it might very well be the 78th there. Note that we have 80 and 90 there. It may be the 78th. Or there might be more than one, but I'm sure that we have some pretty damn good morale. Yeah, there we go. So let's take a look then. Okay, so it looks like I think it was something with a 7. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yes, I thought it was like 144th or something, but apparently I'm wrong. But yes, we do have a 78th Infantry Division over here there. And now this division is actually quite interesting because you do have a infantry division that is non-SS. Obviously, the standard TOE, but you actually do have that much higher morale threshold, and morale is such a big... It's a very, very freaking important part of the game there. So this is a division that would essentially want to aim towards having victories and that morale built up. That would be very important. But this division here, the 78th, the reason why I spent so much effort in trying to find it is because it actually is very important. It really is very, very useful. Having that morale there works really, really well. Morale has such a big impact on the game. The higher your morale is, the further you can effectively move as well, which is fantastic. Let me go ahead and actually get the living manual up as well. So let me go ahead and sort that out. Let's move that out of the way. There will be another change in the near future, by the way. The monitor is new, but there will be another change in the near future. Probably sometime next month, but we'll see about that. And I'm pretty awful. I have spent the last 4 days doing research on how to improve things on the channel in general. And yeah, so we should be able to see the results of that in the near future there, really. So let's go ahead and take a look at that manual. We'll go with the living manual, I guess. I suppose that's going to be the one that is actually really relevant now. In the War and Pacific game against Dadman, your main mistake was not committing enough when he tried attacking. Well, this is it. The thing with that one is, I mean, we saw that down around Solomon's when he had all those forces there. The thing there is obviously it's a case of, I suppose, apprehensiveness. It's also a case of not wishing to commit more, as it could be potentially painful. But I think we'll change our doctrine and see how that goes. I mean, I've gone ahead and changed away from having like singular battleships here and there to cover bases, and we're going to be moving more so towards having force concentration, but more so... oh, 7th Infantry Division is 8 Morale 2 in the 4th Army. Yes, it is, Frago. Correct. But yes, we'll go for the force concentration, but I would like to have that backed up by carriers. The Kinabatai in the actual game is about 15 days out from the completion of upgrades, so that'd be quite good. Again, an OnlyFans page, exactly, Simon. But the catch is I actually do sell just fans and OnlyFans. Yeah, exactly. I sell YouTube fans. There you go. Okay, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for morale. Let me go ahead and press search here then, because morale is such. Oh, actually, no. What I can go ahead and do then to show my point fairly succinctly is if we go towards the back of the actual manual. I was told I would eventually get one of these like manuals physically, and I really do want one, so I'm gonna have to keep pestering them about that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. It is going to be really that's that, but where is it? It's going to be with movement cost. This is also very important, taking into consideration rivers as well. Yeah, ground conditions there. Where's my morale? Ah, better reconnaissance also helps, yeah. Definitely does. Okay, so terrain. But we do have a morale aspect to that. Where is it? Leeds is going to be one of those things as well that we have to take a look at. Spending administration points in the first turn really does matter quite a bit too. Right, where are we? It's around here somewhere. Yeah, I'm sorry for this. Oh, we have had Bulgarian assets added into the game. Not assets on the map, but there are elements now added to the game. So I can try and take a look at that actually, perhaps. But I'm not entirely sure how I would. Right, where's the morale? Let me go ahead and just search by morale then. So that's a national morale. Here we are. This is what I'm talking about. So in basic tactical movement costs over here, then you can see then entering an enemy hex. And so this is for zone of control. And this is going to be really quite important here. Do you want to make small pockets to the north? It would. So essentially what we would go ahead and do then, and this is the big thing that I'm going to probably be making a change of. I'm going to go ahead and show it, but essentially what I would like to do is have divisions move around the enemy units so that essentially they can't retreat and then attack them and force them to actually rout. The idea behind that is then, because you would think that obviously having them surrounded for a turn and then forcing them to surrender would be advantageous, and it is, don't get me wrong, because you are forcing enemy units to surrender. However, that does cost us time. But I'm going to take a look at that in a second. Motorized regiment and 1 motorized division to Riga. Yes, taking Riga is obviously very important there. But we are going to take a look at the actual disposition of enemy depots in that area. And we're going to try and figure out what our targets would be. So I would be aiming more so towards depots. Less emphasis on Riga. Riga can be taken and would be taken and must be taken. But the emphasis is a change one. It's not going to be towards Riga. It's going to be more so towards the town I forgot the name of. But yeah, we're going to take a look at this then. So this is the aspect of morale that is very, very important. So you can see here for non-road motorized MP, we only paid the +1 cost there. If your morale is 51 to 80, you have +2. That is why the elite divisions, so the divisions that have a higher morale, are actually really quite important. They do have a far easier time at working alongside panzers and in general keeping up with the advance, really. So you can see there, and this is where the Soviets do suffer as well, and this is where you definitely do suffer if your units have taken a beating. Morale is very important because it really does change how effectively they fight, they move, just a lot of things in general, really. It does make quite a considerable difference there. Right, okay, so let's see. There are additional impacts there. I'm just going to try and find them. Entering the enemy hex, yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, zone of control to zone of control, ZOC to ZOC, which is actually really interesting because that's how it's referred to in Stalingrad 42 by GMT Games, a game I actually do need to learn in the near future. So, moved by a 83 morale unit. Yeah, there you go. So you can see that +1. And then obviously they would have the lower cost from having that morale, so that definitely does help there. So, let's go ahead and find additional national morale. Yeah, national unit morale. Elite units. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look from here then. Oh, yeah, there is a like button. It would be appreciated if you guys could go ahead and do that. Oh, actually, speaking of that, there is a giveaway that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'm going to be doing the draw tomorrow. So I'd like to get you all in there, actually. So let me bring that up. Yes, so if you guys go ahead and take a look up here, so this is on the community. Essentially, a very good and very generous fan decided to give away a key. He had essentially bought one more than he needed during the actual sale, so we do have a one specific key to give away, which he has kindly donated. So all you guys need to do is comment on this post with a number. Now, in retrospect, I hadn't considered that people would put such wide-ranging numbers, so maybe I should have thought about that a little bit more. But in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to be doing like an actual random draw thing. So do go ahead and go over here, just comment down below a number, and just make sure you're subscribed as well, and then you'll be entered into the draw, and you'll be able to win a key there. I got Nordhammer! We've got our own personal Stasi member. Oh, no, that was so funny the other day. I'm so misunderstood. I do like that. We got Bosco. I've owned the game since launch. I finally just started the 1941 campaign. About 8 turns into the game, I'm scared I'm not on pace for first check. Should I play no check campaign first? In my opinion, I think you should play with the checks because it's a good incentivization. It's something to bear in mind there, really. But in fairness, you're likely going to be able to achieve what you need. If we go ahead and take a look, it's a good place to start there. It's a One of the Pacific Admiral's Edition key. Yeah, so if we take a look over here, then... in fact, I can go ahead and bring up the turn summary, can't I? So, sudden victory would be around about 700 points. I don't know if you can actually achieve sudden victory that soon. You'd have to have things go really quite well. We need to avoid having 525. So essentially, you're trying to beat that, really. You can achieve Leningrad. Yeah, you can achieve Leningrad. Leningrad can be achieved relatively easily. Now, I'm not... Well, I don't have a calculator on hand, but let's just go ahead and take a look then. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That brings us up to 60, 70, 80. And then, of course, we do have some links, so that gives you another 90 there. Odessa, 100. Sevastopol gives you another 30 there. Forgive me about the maths. I'm doing this live, so it's probably not good. So let's say we're up to 130, 140, 150, 160, 160, 170, 180. You can generally achieve... Let me go ahead and take a look then. So the big thing as well is to like know where your limit is. Now, Rostov you could probably achieve. And it's actually really quite good. If you can achieve Rostov, that's very handy. But it depends on really how far you want to go out. Is there a national morale? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Each nation does have their own morale. That's just what I was talking about the other day, like where you could see the actual names like that. It's an interesting map mod. So generally... Oh, let's go ahead and take the Volkov over here. This is a little bit hard to see from the zoomed out aspect. But if we generally go ahead and say... Ooh... Aim for something like that, you can probably manage that fairly easily. And this has actually been a little bit more cautious. It's not been the most aggressive that you could be. You could obviously try to take like Kalinin or Kalinin and reserve Tula, other objectives essentially. But this is generally where you'll find yourself there. But yes. Well, what we're going to go ahead and do then. It's a good point regarding the actual victory points. And I do apologise if it seems a little bit rambling. There is a lot to cover really here. So, we'll start with Army Group North over here then. What we're going to go ahead and do then... not that one, but that one will come in handy. Can I see... here we go. So, during the actual first turn, if you go ahead and press N, and I believe this is due to the fact that we do have reconnaissance over here, so you can see that we have 18 there. Yeah, 10 there. So we do have reconnaissance before the game begins, so that's something to represent infiltration by German forces. I mean, like Brandenburgers and etc. Oh gosh, I can't... It's been a while since I've read it now, but I mean, they were quite some considerable distance behind enemy lines at the outset. Really sabotaging telecommunications and things of that nature. Thanks there, George, you're so generous. Leningrad is not easy for Soviet players. Sorry, if the Soviet player chooses a strong defense. That's very true. Reserve Kalinin, and Tula on the outside edge of your supply lines as the axis. Yeah, as Nord says there, that's a thing you've really got to take into consideration. But now, the reason why I'm bringing up the actual depots over here is because these are targets. These are things that you probably want to aim for if you can. Like, for example, over here, then, if we take a look then, so disposition of forces, so we have Swarm there, which is not ideal. But in general, there's not much in the way of resistance here, so a good thing that you could potentially do would be to go ahead and try and take out that depot. Trying to isolate these airfields, or trying to get rid of these airfields would also be quite handy, but it's not very important, and frankly, it's probably not all that possible. But essentially what you would like to, well, aim to do in this area is essentially try, and I've got to stop saying that, is try to remove enemy freight. So aiming for depots like this would be quite good, where you can achieve it. And essentially what you're doing then is you're depriving the enemy of these, well, pre-war depots, which is actually very good. I mean, if we take a look at our own pre-war depot, that was not a particularly great example, but it is an example nonetheless. I'd have to take it to the Soviet side to take a look at what is in those depots. But yeah, you can kind of get the idea. If you're taking these depots out, I can imagine the Soviets will have more stockpiled in these. This is a funny disposition on the first turn there. Yes, exactly as Mar says there. I didn't count the additional points we could see there, +4, +6, +5. So taking them early is very good and very useful, and it can be done. And it does help you out pretty considerably. So, what I was saying earlier on regarding Riga is, for example, what I'd have to do then is look to how we can actually isolate these forces and have to really consider which division to move first. But essentially what I would go ahead and do then is use a division So we'll obviously blast through something like that. That being clear train's quite easily done. It would be the easier one to do. Though, of course, I do need to have the actual roads up over here, because that does give you a benefit. Now, if I take a look, we don't have roads here. So you could potentially go around, but this is probably going to be the easy one to go around. But it does make... it's really under consideration. That isn't going to put out that much zone of control. If we go ahead and check on the actual living manual, I can find that one out. So let's see. Zone of control. Let's see. I just need to find out. I believe that regiments have less zone of control, but I could be wrong. Right, the movement cost for exiting enemies under control depends on the morale. Yeah, that's a big thing there. That's where morale matters. Let's find it. I kind of wish it told you there's zone of control impact there. It does at some point. I can't recall when it was now. Oh, this is actually very important, by the way. Take a look at the actual CV weight. So this is combat value weight factors. As you can see there, self-propelled artillery. Essentially how things are actually valued. It's actually really quite useful. Like flame tanks are actually quite highly valued. And they're obviously very, very useful in urban scenarios. But yeah, close support tanks and heavy tanks, they're quite good. Do we have amphibious on here? Do they count as amphibious? I imagine they just count as the actual tank, but I imagine with them being amphibious, they should have... Oh, there we go, amphibious there, free. So amphibious tanks are interesting, but I imagine they're subject to different checks versus like a medium tank when it comes to river crossing. I'd imagine that they will take significantly less disruption when crossing a river, so that's something to take into consideration. Okay. I'm trying to find it now. Let's go ahead and see. I imagine this is quite a boring scenario. Well, sorry, quite a boring stream so far. But it's all going through the questions, going through the motions. And that's the important aspect. Right. What we're looking for then. If you guys are playing as well, and you want to take a look through the actual rulebook, that'd be quite helpful. But yeah. There's that Zork. Quite a large rulebook, really. But I like that, it's quite nice. So move down to the movement cost. So that's the impact. Does it tell us how much they actually have? Does it seem so? It'll be around here somewhere. Rail's actually quite important, though. Really, the first winter is a one to really to take into consideration. So I can't see where this is now. Yeah, it should be on Steam. Pretty sure it's on Steam. Right. Okay. So what we want to go ahead and do then and take into consideration. How you doing there, man? Yeah, I can't seem to find the part of the rulebook where it tells you the zone of control. I believe that divisions obviously impose a full zone of control. I don't know if the game has a different definition for regiments and smaller. I think it may do, but I could be wrong there. But essentially, the opening strategy here, I've not really introduced how I would go about it, but the idea would be just to essentially cut these units off from the actual Soviet Union, well, which is the main Soviet hexes, and then attack them. It will cost us in this turn, but essentially in the turn afterwards it would free us up by not having to deal with them and force them to surrender. So you pay a little bit in the first turn, but you do gain in the second turn, I would imagine. Tigers would obviously be there to take this, so obviously we'd have to have our mobile forces move up this way. Moving along roads is very important as well. Very, very bloody important. And if I do go ahead and actually take a look at the, what should we call it? Manual once more. That's quite amusing. Go ahead and hide that. Let's see. Oh, yes. Combat preparation is really quite important too, in how likely support units are to be involved. So very important things there. Oh, hang on. There we go. Is this it? Oh, no, that's when it comes into actual combat. That one's quite important there. Yeah, we'll find that. Okay. So this is in regards to attacking, but I might as well cover it while we are here. So, yeah, weather CV modifiers. So when you're actually on roads, you will find it easier to attack in different weather states. And that's the important thing there. So we would begin in clear weather for the most part. I'd have to take a look at the individual hexes, but I think for the most part things are clear. And we can see here that good roads are really quite important, as they will really help you to maintain an offensive. You can see here light snow is about as good as it gets. I mean, you have, well, yeah, light snow, light mud, about as good as it gets when it comes to the weather. We do have heavy snow here, but good roads are quite forgiving. But yeah, you can see there, poor roads, this is essentially where we're not on a road on a map. You can see how that has a big impact. But snow, light snow specifically, is your best friend beyond clear. But yeah, there's quite a lot of important factors to take into consideration there. Crossover attacks, obviously very important there. But we are going to go ahead and take a look. Yes, there's a lot to take into consideration, really, which is why I'm doing this preparation. I do need to take a closer look into the actual manual, understand more there, really. But what I am looking for, then, is the movement. Let's go ahead and move down here. Otherwise, I would be going for quite some time. Let's see. There's a roundabout here somewhere. I just want to show you guys the effects of roads, essentially. Oh, okay. So this is with the weather. There we go. Road movement cost for poor terrain. Terrain and tactical. Yeah, there we are. So, let's see. Oh, air interdiction as well. This is what I mentioned by if you can maintain the actual strength of the Axis Air Force, or the Luftwaffe in general, then you can actually impose some quite hefty, well, just difficulties upon the enemy through interdiction, which is quite good. And just increasing their MP is actually quite useful. Slows them down pretty considerably. Right, okay. I think during clear, we don't seem to have that one listed. You can see there, motorized MP, non-motorized MP, you're paying about 1 there. I think that's irrespective of roads. But roads definitely do help during poor terrain. I'm not seeing it during clear, but we can go ahead and assume it will have an impact. Yeah. But we can see here the motorized movement points then. Non-motorized. That's the one we'll have to pay attention to, but this is the especially important one. So it's like, for example, then if you're moving through a swamp there, you can see it costs a infantry unit about 2 on a good road, 2 on an average road. Infantry can generally move through swamp more effectively than motorized elements. But as long as you have a road, you'll be able to move through a swamp with infantry fairly easily. But you can see there that actually for motorized, you do need to try to avoid swamps where you can. Roads do help, but even a good road, even through a swamp, is not going to help you. All that much, anyway. And that does have a big impact on how we'd go about things. So, essentially, then, we do have... Let's go ahead and take a look at where our motorized assets are. Let's go ahead and turn the depots off. So you can see that we do have our 6th Panzer over here. We do have the 4th Panzer Division over here in the north. How you doing there, David? Good to have you, my friend. So, essentially, what we'd be looking towards doing, then, is opening up a path. We would avoid this hex here. You can assume this would be about 4 MP. This in clear weather and the terrain being fine. Clear, yeah, ground clear. Very good. There's no water there. So essentially what we'd want to do then is clear this area out and remove that zone of control. We wouldn't be entering an enemy hex. So we'd have to clear that out as well. So the idea behind what I was saying earlier about the routing is essentially you are removing the enemy and you're removing that zone of control. Sure, you might not be forcing them to surrender this turn, but you'll be able to catch up on them pretty quickly. But the idea would be then we'd move this way and then up there. Trying to take maximum advantage of the mobility that we have. We do have a crossing of a river. You can see that we do move then into, what's that, light woods. There's a certain limit to how much you can avoid, but it'd be interesting to take a look at the most optimum movement. As if I take a light woods then, how are we looking? Heavywoods Forest, so it's the same there. So yeah, if you can avoid going through terrain like this, you definitely will save some MP. My gosh, that Vasif tech thing, that's all over lately, isn't it? I've seen that on quite a few different videos. Very weird, very weird. Yeah, I really should look more at these stats. I just realized sport that was in good condition. Well, this is it. That's what I did essentially as well. And that's what we're trying to really take a closer look at now. Wait, what are we talking about? The state of the country? I'm a little bit confused. Okay. Yeah, we'll do tests essentially. But what we'll go ahead and take a look at then is we'll take a look at combat factors shortly enough. But it's like, for example, you can see here that we have the 80. Oh, somebody mentioned it was the 7th division, wasn't it? That had the higher morale. I think it was the 7th. What was it, 7th? Well, yes, the train still counts if there is a road. So if we go back over here then. Yeah, so this is like the road movement cost of poor terrain. There we are. So you can see that we have good roads, we have average, and we have poor. So essentially, you really want, especially fucking mountains, if you're using Motri as assets. But essentially, this is a thing to always bear in mind, that terrain really matters more than anything else. Or it matters so much more than most things. Let's see. I don't think this gives us the water level. But you can see this is for moving across a river. And that's the thing to bear in mind as well. It's in 4 farming. Thank you very much for Frago. I know you had mentioned it earlier. I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, so you can see here then a minor river. Ice level 0 to 4. No enemies under control. You're paying 2 MP to cross that. It does make you wonder if pioneers have an impact on that, but I don't think they do. But you can see there, still +1. So essentially, let's say that we get to this point over here. You're paying 2 MP to cross that. And that's on top of the actual train cost, so moving through... And this is on an average road. So moving through the actual light woods on an average road, we're going to be paying 6 MP. So essentially, we're paying 8 MP to cross over here. Well, I mean, this is it. You take a look over here. And that's average, clear. So we're paying 2 to cross. 1 MP to move. So I think we'll be paying about 3 MP, or give it or take there. And that does have a pretty big impact on how you move. It is a very interesting thing to take into consideration, really. So this is one of the reasons why Riga isn't as preferable. You will have enough MP to be able to make it out here. You've just got to bear that in mind. It's the reason why objectives out this way, like Daggerpills, or however you want to pronounce that, it's one of the reasons why this becomes quite attractive. Now, there is poor terrain, but you can, if you have a unit, you can have it move out this way. Like, especially once you get to the sort of point over here, you'd be quite able to go that way, perhaps. But yeah, you're really going to try and use the terrain to your advantage and try and make things work. Yeah, for mountains, you need mountain tanks. You mean the goats? But yeah, that's what we're looking towards. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the CV factors then. And if we take a look at these divisions then, yeah. They do have the high morale. Let me go ahead and actually take a look at that one in 4 farming first, though. Oh, it was over here, wasn't it? Well, that's the 78th. Yeah, there we go. So we have 78th. And... yeah, so 78th, and then... I forgot what the other one's now. What was it? Yeah, so 78th. Is there a second, or is it just the one? There might be just the one. Looks like it's just the one now. Well, this is another thing as well when it comes down to the rails. So take a look at things then, really. I think essentially what we'd be looking at doing then. Let's take a look here. Now, we do have a major river to cross over there. And that's going to be something to bear in mind. But I think essentially what we'd be looking at doing then is using divisions to clear these. Well, probably clear these out of the way. That can be done fairly effectively. Fairly cheap as well. We do have the 126th Division there. Now, that does have to attack across a river. We do have a 30th Infantry Division there that could attack there. Across, yeah, just across there. Yeah, first snow roll as well is actually quite impactful. The thing is that you've got to really prepare is... it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't be aiming to win the war in 42. Something would really... Sorry, 41. Something would... I'd aim to win in 42. But essentially, you'd have to have something go phenomenally well for you to win in 41. You kind of need the enemy player to make a mistake there, essentially. But what we're doing then is we're essentially examining the little things, the little details, and really trying to figure out, right, okay, we've got these assets now, how can we make them more effective? I don't want to be gamey, but I want to use the actual game and just understand how it works and understand how our units are to be used. So, I think what we'd look towards doing then is likely using the 30th Division, perhaps, and maybe the 126th there. What we need to be able to do is move behind the enemy. This position over here is an interesting one, and it might be perhaps best for the 126 to attack there, and then have the 30th Infantry Division able to move out. But I'd have to take a look. This is probably a good location to have a breakout. If I take a look at the actual reconnaissance, now we do have pretty good reconnaissance here on day 1 due to the AI shenanigans. So you can see that generally this area is clear behind here. So let's go ahead and take a look then. So... Cross the river attacks are very interesting too. But let's see then. Rivers. Yes. Rivers are really bloody impactful. You can see there a major river with no ice, no enemies under control is a +4. Non-motorized is +2. So infantry are really your go-to when it comes to rivers, to be honest. You don't really want to be having your motorized cross rivers if you can avoid it. It will take a lot from them, really. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see there when they're frozen. That definitely helps. Supply may be traced through hex sites when frozen, which is interesting. Yeah. So that's the thing you got to avoid there. And bear in mind, this is without enemies under control. So that's the big thing there. So you can see here that we have frozen 5 to 10. You can see there it's actually really quite convenient to cross, just in general. Very easy to cross, or easier to cross. A major river, even frozen, is still, yeah, it's easy enough for infantry to cross, but obviously for vehicles, I imagine that's due to the size of the river. You could still have some issues there. But yeah, generally you'd want to have infantry attacking across minor rivers, or just really moving across the rivers. Just try to avoid motorized elements moving across rivers if you can, if you want to try and maximize mobility. That's going to be the big thing there. Okay, so, yeah. The absolute smallest amount of MP you will pay will be 1 moving across clear terrain. Cities, urban are good to move through there, which is quite nice. Woods are generally fine for the infantry, just the same as clear, which is quite handy. The heavy woods, we would have to refer to 38.74, which is now one of the road movement. Yeah. So, while you can, generally have this in mind that motorized, panzers, that sort of thing, they want to go through either clear or they want to go through city. Woods is not really something. If you can avoid going through woods, you're going to have more MP. Infantry can do wood, city, and clear just fine. Other things, that's going to start to increase the amount of MP. And MP is king. That's how you do everything in this game. So that's a big thing there. Excuse me. We do have other impacts over here as well. Yeah, so you can see that morale is very important. There's not many units in the game that have an 80+, so you can see why Panzers and SS have some pretty interesting things there to work with. Oh, is there a new episode? I haven't caught up with that, actually. But I do love Dojo. I do love watching it. I do find it weird, though. Like, how come Dojo only streams in 720p? I know he has issues with the internet, but it's like if I was in California, not like fucking, I don't know, Sahara? I don't know. I might have been sworn to the Saharans. The lizard people that live there. Okay. So enter the enemy hex pool, roads, minimum cost of 3 there. Yeah, there we go. Enter enemy hex. Oh, this is what I was looking for earlier on, in fact. Yes, that's exactly great. So in addition to the rules above, These units must pay at least 3 MP per any type of enemy-controlled hex. So that is an enemy hex if a unit is a brigade or regiment. That's what I was looking for earlier on. Yes, so it is cheaper to enter the zone of control of a enemy brigade or regiment. So that does make a big difference there. But okay. What's going on with California? I thought California was like the shining beacon, or apparently. Oh dear. I do love Dojo. I would recommend going ahead and checking them out. You can get Riga Dagger Plus, I'm saying that wrong, Dagger Plus, Polosk in the first turn. Good to put depot as an advantage. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, definitely true. How you doing there, Bananas? Good to have you, my friend. Yeah, so essentially this is a thing to bear in mind. That's what I was looking for earlier on. So you can see it is a +4 zone of control cost when it's a division, but when it is a regiment or a brigade, you are paying less. So that does have quite the impact. And it does help you to approach the game, really. Now, the entertaining thing is there's not many places where you can take advantage of that, but there are some places. For example, over here, we do just have the NKVD border detachment, and the NKVD are just a regiment. These guys are just a battalion there. So that's a free, +3 from the enemy zone of control here. So when you're looking towards breaking through, that's something you've got to bear in mind there. So that would be a 4, that's a 3 there on that MP. So, if we take a look at it this way, note that this is actually really going to be the best position to break through. We don't have any additional terrain difficulties, we do have a clear terrain there. So this would be the one to go ahead and take advantage of, really. And, yeah, to be honest, the 30th Division there, it does have a really nice amount of mobility there. 16 MP. Take a look at the morale to 80. If that was an 81, that'd be really handy. I'll see you later, Leonard. Take care. We'll probably not have that much longer, really. I think what I might go ahead and do is maybe make this a bit of a mini-series or something of that nature, where we like kind of go through things in anal detail and just try and understand what's the thing to do there, really. But yes, if we go ahead and take a look at the actual MPs that would be paying once again. So bear in mind the 3 and the 4. So 3 for morale, 3 for brigades and regiments, 4 for divisions, and obviously morale being quite important there. Yeah, enemy hex there. Definitely helpful to have that morale. So you can see there, deliberate attack, +16. So that's the number you're going to be looking for the motorized. Infantry can manage at 6, which is pretty good. So let's take a look here. No motorized type 2 units pay only 5 MPs for a deliberate attack. That's quite interesting then. Only 5 MPs. I.e. those that have vehicles for supplies and all non-infantry, Right. Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. The extra MP cost of attacking across the river is equal to 2/3 of the MP cost of moving across the river. For example, a motorized unit pays 17 extra points when attacking over a major river when the ice level. Yeah. Okay. Combat delay, big one there as well. Combat delay on motorized is a big thing to take into consideration. Oh, this shows you the benefit of the administrative movement bonus, and the reason why you should try and keep the Soviet Union garrisons, which you can definitely do. And the Romanians and Hungarians are just purpose-built for that sort of thing, really. Yeah, temporary Soviet motorized, yeah. We're not going to be doing that. So, let's try and take a look then at understanding the combat. So, combat, well, cross-river attack. So there we are. Cross-river attacks. Now, this is a thing that's going to matter in the first turn, really. And in other turns to come as well. So, combat units attacking into a hex route non-frozen. Yep, so that's the thing we took a look at earlier before. Minor or major riversides are required to expend additional movement points above a normal attack. So this is where, if you can, you do want to try and avoid crossing, well, attacking across a river. Ground elements with longer range indirect fire devices will normally not check for disruption, while infantry and combat engineers will most likely will. Infantry type ground elements will tend to suffer approximately the same amount of disruption for both minor and major. So minor rivers and major rivers are just as impactful generally against infantry, but it's really when it comes to AFVs. So essentially, what you're going to be doing here, then, is not having your IVs attacking across a minor, and God forbid you attack across a major river. It's not going to help. So rivers, I mean, this is a thing here, really. Now, I'm going to take an example. If you guys are watching a strategy gaming dojo series that he's got ongoing at the moment, now he has his forces deployed along what he lovingly calls a Nava line, which is great. But bear in mind, you have a major river over here. You do have a defensive train here as well. So infantry, so leg infantry, we'll just say, they're going to be paying the cost for attacking across the river. Some of them will be disrupted, and disrupted units do not actually factor into the combat value. Essentially, it's like a squad that is, for some reason, disabled or unable to attack, or not in good cohesion to attack. But especially AFVs, you do not bloody want AFVs attacking over here. Like something, maybe like 2/3 of them could be disrupted, and they're not going to factor in. So that's one of the good things about rivers in this game, really. It can definitely help to even the odds for the Axis and the Soviet player in terms of AFVs. Because essentially you can use your lesser number of AFVs, and well, let's take an example then. AFV numbers are a bit of a weird one here to begin with. Let's go ahead and take the 20th Panzer Division. And, I don't know, let's assume a, 43, 44 Soviet tank corps, depends on if it has the numbers or something of that nature. But let's go ahead and assume that the enemy's going to have more tanks. Let's assume that they have 500 tanks or something of that nature. If we were defending a position like this, it would be even better in, like, light woods. God forbid you have armor, move into heavy woods, it's not worthwhile. But let's say, for example, the enemy was attacking across here. And let's say AFV. Or a Soviet tank corps, or multiple tank corps, brigades, etc. You are likely going to win that battle with a Panzer division. You're actually going to have your Panzers fight. These guys are going to have a large number actually not even participate in the combat, which really so yeah, effectively turn a numerical inferiority into a numerical superiority in the local battle zone. So that makes a big difference. So I do have a pretty big and healthy respect for rivers, but when it's deep winter and the rivers are frozen, all bets are in fact off, and terrain becomes your closer companion at that point. It's always a close companion, but it becomes closer companions then. But yes. I can imagine there's a lot of you watching this now saying, my god, is he actually going to do something? And we'll do a little bit of things, really. We just need to take a little bit of a look then. So, I realise I need to do something. I've been talking for about an hour and done jack. But that's generally the way I roll. So take a look at the actual disposition of the Army Group Nord and go from there, really. Command is one of the things we'll have to take a closer look into as we go on. But let's go ahead and take a look at what do we actually have here in Army Group North? What does the army itself look like? The Army Group, I should say. So we do have our command here, 62 out of 108. So we are pretty much good to go there. Oh, note that we do have the RAD labor detachments. These are guys you're going to want to have assigned to cores. Otherwise, they're going to be all over the shop, and it's not worthwhile. Essentially, they could be within 90 hexes of the Army Group North repairing rails, and that's not what you want. You want to have them within a core where it is decreased to about 15 hexes, which, oh no, sorry, it's 5 hexes, within 5 hexes of a core. So that does narrow it down quite considerably. It would be 15 hexes if it was an army. So yeah, essentially you want to take units like that are going to be repairing your rails and have them put into actual cores. They're going to be far more effective, and they're going to be far more focused. But again, yes, we'll take a look then. So we have Army Group North. And let's go ahead and take a look at what we have below that. So if we show our subordinates, take a look at the entirety of Army Group North here at this moment in time. We'll go ahead and we'll sort by size of a unit. So you can see here we have Army Group North, 4th Panzer, 16th Army, 16th and 18th, the 101st RHG. Then we have a clause there. So let's go ahead and take a look. Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. I can get a good sense of what units we actually do have here. Do note the Panzers, 90 morale, 86 morale. That's an FBD which has 75, not that matters, but it kind of does actually matter sometimes. You can see there 88, 91, 88, 87, 76. The police division over here is interesting. They're SS forces, but they don't really have that much in the way of morale. They're kind of like normal forces for the most part. And in fact, they are normal forces for that 75. They just have access to their own TOE, I believe it is. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. And yeah, there you go. So you could take a look at that. They generally will have access to probably superior equipment, or at least more artillery, and it tends to be something of that nature. I could be wrong, though. We'd have to do a side-by-side comparison. I guess we might as well do that if we're getting into anal details. So, take a look at that. I'll put that to one side for now. I guess that's why you guys come here. You know what I'm like, and you'll know I'll get into this, like, anal stuff. Right, we've got that on. Okay. So, I can take a look then at a side-by-side comparison then. So, a SS Infantry Division here, then, please. Looks relatively the same. Okay. Yeah, looks about the same here. Which is quite interesting then. I'm not saying usually the SS will have a superior TOE, or at least a tweet TOE. I'm not quite seeing that. They do have lower cavalry. They don't have the armored cars, which is quite interesting. We have the same amount of artillery. We have the same amount of AT, same amount of mortars, light mortars. Oh, a little bit more. We have 3 more squads of light mortars. Infantry is about the same. Infantry AT is about the same. So that's where we benefit here then. So the police division over here then has a motorcycle, so they have the Kratschützen. So we have less cavalry, but we have actual Kratschützen in here, which makes a pretty big difference. Well, a difference nonetheless. They're quite useful to have. They'll actually have more firepower. I think that is the biggest difference there. Rifles is about the same there. Engineers the same? Yeah, we don't have light infantry. That's another thing there. So you can see essentially we have less cavalry and no light infantry. We can see there was a bicycle across the squad. So we have less of these and we have none of these, but we actually have the Kratschützen. So that does make a pretty big difference there. We in fact have more motorcycle than a light infantry and the cavalry, whilst also, well, added together would be 36. So we have 3 less. We actually have more in general, as we have the cavalry there. Okay, yeah, and that's pretty good. Sometimes it's worthwhile taking a look at the TOE of your units and really understanding what they could be potentially used for. If I go ahead and actually find the police division, we can go ahead and take a look at that. So the motorcycle squads then. Yeah, here you go. This is the big important thing here. Is the fact that these guys, they do have the SMGs, so you can see their rate of fire is 25. We can take a look in the future how that matters. Ammunition as well, mattering quite a bit there. But you can see the accuracy 50. The rifles are going to be more accurate. Excuse me. The LMG is fantastic. The MG34 is fantastic. Yeah, range, yeah, that's very good. But you can see there the effectiveness of the actual weapons themselves. So versus man, so essentially versus a soft tie, you can see 8. The LMG's there, 90 in total, and that makes a big difference. So you can see that these guys, if we go ahead and take another look, I know this is a very weird video, but it's just, I can't be any other way. I'm a creature of habit. But generally, it's useful stuff to take into consideration. Oh, I'm using a mod, by the way, for the actual pictures. I think it makes them look really, really cool. So if I take a look then once more. We'll compare it to, what would be the closest analogous comparison? Then I guess it would be the, cavalry squad. What do we have here in terms of speed 6? I think both are speed 6. Yeah, both are speed 6. They actually do have another man of the squad there, which is actually quite nice. I think the typical German squad is about 10 men. So the cavalry is 11. The Kratschützen is a 12, which is quite good. Do note that they also do use fuel. That's the thing to bear in mind there. We don't have a reliability issue over here. But you can see that, yeah. Motorcycles consume fuel. You can't really get your horse to drink some diesel. But that's the thing to take into consideration. But you can see there, then, we do have the one LMG. We also do have the rifle grenade in here, which is actually pretty interesting. So generally, cavalry will have greater anti-armor capabilities, whereas a motorcycle squad is going to have far better anti-infantry capabilities. But then again, you do have these embedded divisions that do have the infantry squads, but you'll see in a second here. The rifle squad itself, then, it's very general, as you can imagine. Now that we do have 10 men here, we have the one LMG. They do have a hand grenade, but we have a hand grenade here. And we do have the SMG, as we do over here. The big impact is the fact that, well, you have another LMG, and you have a second pistol over here, which is quite interesting. You do have 2 more men in here as well, so they're quite useful. Quite useful. I'd have to take a look at how their combat factors are weighed. Does anybody have a question or maybe a direction I should take this video in? I'm probably meandering a little bit at this point now, but it's all important stuff to take into consideration. We were taking a look at the Army Group North, weren't we, beforehand, so we'll go back to doing that. Okay. Now, taking a look at what artillery and support units we have in general is going to be quite important. Now, Pioneer Battalions. Yes. Pioneer Battalions are your best friends. They are superb. And it is a good source of where your infantry units will have anti-armor. The AT guns that we have, well, we can take a look at them and see how they compare. What do we have here, then? So we've got the 50 mils. Yeah, 132 is not bad at all, really, to begin with. Many will have the 37mm door knocker. And I do love that picture, that's pretty cool. So you can see there, 78. So that's an additional consideration to have, really. Artillery, for the most part, will be the armor killer. Yeah, like the 150 mils over here, then a 185, 271. Big guns really don't ever tire. They don't tire. Yeah, we have a heavy infantry gun there. Artillery is a big one. That is a big winner. And that's the thing that really gets you in this game. Especially with the changes as well to artillery, as it becomes more and more impactful. You will need to look at the SU, as there are some cores with far too many. Yeah, as you say there, Fragger. As you can say, as you say there. Now, we do have very interesting support units around the area. I think it's assigned to 12th that we generally have the siege artillery. But I'm not seeing it here right now. Maybe it's in another corps. I think generally I do attach them to the 12th corps. But no, that we do have a Flam Panzer battalions. Where's my siege guns? Are they in the actual army? They could be. I don't think they will be. They might be attached to the units, but I could be wrong there. No, I don't think they are. What I'm going to go ahead and do then is go to our construction, go over here, and shear types. Very useful buttons to have there. So we're looking for the super heavy. Yeah, so we've got the siege mortars. Yeah, 4th Corps, 4th Army. I should just look a little bit to the north there. So you can see that we do have a 4th Corps, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the actual siege mortars over here. So we do have one over here, and we have one to the south, which is quite handy. I would really benefit from a good understanding of what my objectives should be for each turn. That's a good thing. We'll take a look at that then. So pocket and squish versus very speedy advance. Essentially, your enemy is... let me phrase this. It's not so much the enemy, per se, but it is. It's more so time, position, but mostly time. But you need to destroy the enemy's manpower. Think of it this way. The objectives you are reaching for are going to be a hell of a lot easier if you can destroy a couple of million Soviets. So essentially what you want to be aiming for then is obviously to take the objectives, obviously reach towards Riga, Smolensk, that sort of in Minsk, etc, etc, etc. But look for situations where you can actually bleed the enemy. That's going to be quite important. So I suppose you could say then is give more weight to taking the victory points initially, like seizing the first turn targets. After that, you are obviously going to be moving towards additional victory point targets, but you will be looking more so towards destroying the enemy's manpower, if you can there. Can you designate assault headquarters for turn 1? You can, well, we'll take a look at the assault headquarters situation in a second. Assault headquarters, per the rules, well, you do gain the benefit of the command bonus, like the additional command, but you don't gain the actual benefit of the additional combat value preparation, etc., until the turn afterwards. So that's something to bear in mind. You got to plan that. But anyhow, we're going to go ahead and take a look over here. So these guys are just effing amazing. I don't know. Well, this is minus 10 rate of fire, so they don't really fire all that often. Ammunition there is quite low, but essentially when they do hit, they are going to hurt. They're going to hurt a lot. Very large units, very hungry for manpower. But you can see over here that these are the things you want to use against... oh God, you can't imagine the devastation that these guys can wreak really against a unit in the open. But yeah, they're absolutely amazing. Look at the size of the damn thing there. Camouflage too. So yes, they're very good to have there. The reason why I was talking about TOE and ultimately about just units and how they work is effectively that's going to be the thing that you are going to have to take into consideration. Like, for example, are you going to have a division likely to be attacked by an armored unit? Is it going to be attacked by an infantry unit that has, well, armored elements? And take that into consideration. Oh, yes, Night Phoenix is very good too. I mean, I'll be taking a look at that one as well. Night Phoenix is actually a better player than I am. He has paid more attention to the mechanics, and that's what we're going to be addressing here. So big up there to Phoenix. I have 1.6 million Soviet losses. Yeah, it's hard to say really what you should be looking at. I'm not that familiar with play-by emails and AAR, so I can't say what you should aim for. Everything is very contextual. Effectively. Right, okay. Let me go ahead and take a look then. I want to see combat factors. Combat weight, I think it was. CV. That'll... here we are. CV weight. Okay. Yep, all ground elements, so never guns have a minimum of 1 CV. So we'd like to understand how this affects us. But we're not going to see that all too much. We'll have to take a look into that. Yeah. Where was our Kratchutson? Okay, so bicycle 30. Assault, where's our motorcycle? Yeah, so motorcycle and cavalry about 3 there. So they have the same sort of combat value weight, but it's more so the actual TOEs that they do have. But they're also quite useful to actually have there. This is a thing that you have to bear in mind as well when it comes to assigning support units. That's something to take into consideration as well. I'd say it's easy to be more reckless with the AI. Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. Okay. Right then. Oh, I'm so on a tangent, aren't I? Okay. You really do want to become quite familiar with all these units. If we take a look at the Nebelwerfers over here, they're actually very good. Generally, artillery is a very interesting asset to have, as you can imagine. But the actual rockets do tend to be more effective against infantry, though they have no anti-armor. So that's something to take into consideration when you're actually assigning your support units and figuring out what corps should have what. Terrain probably would have a pretty big impact. But this is why these guys actually do come with the AT guns, so they're actually quite interesting. You're not just getting the actual artillery, you are getting some additional anti-tank guns, so that's something to weigh up the cost of, really. Yes. Right. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and call it about there. I'm going to go ahead and do some more reading. In the next episode, we'll go ahead and we'll probably make some moves and just go through things like that. I know it's going to be a bit of a weird series, but this is generally how I'm going to have to approach things from a perspective of playing a play-by email. I need to really understand what units are, and of course you guys need to do that as well. So in the future, we'll be taking a look at considerations of freight, rails, objectives would be a good idea, and really trying to maximize the effectiveness of our own units there. So I can imagine it's been a bit of a weird episode. I thought, you know what, I might as well do something that's a little bit more of a different form to what we normally have, and just see if people find it useful. I do think it's useful to go ahead and really take a deep dive into the opening turn, rather than just playing the turn per se, but going into the really deep aspects of how, why, and really when to do things. And that's the biggest difference of understanding how to play and really knowing how to play, if that makes sense. It's okay to know how to do something, but the real sign of understanding is to know when to do something. So again, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents. I hope you guys enjoy the new monitor. There will be additional change to come in the near future. But I am also going to be doing a sale on my prints. You guys might be familiar with them. I haven't advertised them in a fair while, and I actually do not have the original files available anymore. So they're pretty much here and then gone forever. I'm going to have to find a picture of them on Google, actually. But I think I'll be doing them... I forget what size I have. I think the large would be 25, and I think smaller 20, or even about 20. We'll see about that. I'm going to find the actual picture of it on Google. So I, as said, do not have it anymore, which is very ironic. Let's see. Yeah, here we are. So this is the actual print. I have an A1 size, and I think I'll have to double check. I had to like fish them out of a storage facility, aka garage. So yep, this is the print. Whoops, I didn't mean to go on that. Oops. This is a print that will be going on sale. So I'll post more details about that. So if you guys do want to support the actual channel, you can do it through obviously the original methods. But I think this is more interesting for people, as you do actually get something physically for it as a reward. So there we are. Until next time, thank you for watching. See you all in the future. Have a great new year. Stay sexy, stay healthy, and stay financially solvent. That's always very handy. Do that. See you next time. Do comment down below what you think about the episode. I know it's been weird, but probably needed a little bit of a hand in how to shape these. So until next time, this has been the XTRG podcast, essentially. It probably might as well be. Maybe that's more effective advertisement. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.